Hello, it's Kevin Thompson, and welcome to the Nine Innings Podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. As I always say, subscribe to the channel. As I always say, go and get my book, MLB to CFP, live on Apple and Amazon. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email us at info@9icapitalgroup.com. Send us your questions, or you go to the website at www.9icapitalgroup.com. Schedule your appointment. As you know, we're here to do what? Educate, empower, and engage. And today we're talking about empowerment. There's so many scams out there. It is absolutely mind-boggling. And I want to talk about one. We've talked about plenty in the past. We talked about pig butchery and all this other stuff, but we're talking about this one today. It's called spoofing. What is spoofing? Why you need to be concerned about it, and how it can affect your lives. Today, we're talking about spoofing on the Nine Innings Podcast and how to avoid it. Let's get it. If you guys have been on social media, whether it be on TikTok or LinkedIn or Facebook or what have you, you hear people getting scammed out of their money, and it's not dumb people. It is absolutely, these people are very smart. And the issue is that scams are getting more and more sophisticated. And we're talking about spoofing today. So today, what is spoofing? Let's give you a background on what spoofing is. Spoofing is a type of scam where a malicious party disguises their identity to appear as a trusted source. This can happen through various channels such as phone calls, emails, text messages, or websites. The goal of spoofing is to deceive individuals to providing personal information such as account details, passwords, or social security numbers by pretending to be a legitimate entity like a bank, phone company, or other trusted organization. It's very believable. I get them a lot myself. My wife got them, and I've kind of given her some practical ways to how to mitigate that. But it's important to understand why you need to be aware of it. It's critical because these can impact your entire life. What happens is once they gather your details and get the information, they start draining your bank accounts. It happens time and time and time again. So I'm going to give you a quick little video of something that popped up on my wife's LinkedIn that I think is very, very valuable.
Let me tell you about a scam so that you don't also fall for it through and have your bank accounts drained. I'm literally crying outside of Wells Fargo right now. I got a call from a Wells Fargo number saying that I had fraudulent activity on my account and that a random person was being sent money from Zelle in like big numbers that were stressful to hear. I've never used Zelle, and so this like freaked me out, and they told me to go onto my account and that I needed to secure my Zelle on my end by sending money that would go back to my account right after. And like looking back on it, I literally feel like an old person that fell for a stupid scam. Like I feel so dumb. So I did everything that they said to do, and they literally drained my bank account. And I felt like it was sketchy the whole time, but since it came from a Wells Fargo number, I trusted it. So like as this was happening, I decided to just go right to Wells Fargo, and as I was walking in the door, I like lost my shit and just was bawling to the poor ladies at the desk. And I said, like, I don't know if this is a scam or not, like, can you please help me? And I explained the situation. She took my phone and said something to the lady, like, can you verify your blah, 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 and they hung up. So at that point, I knew I was absolutely fucked.
This young lady was spoofed by someone calling her, and it's showing on her caller ID that was from Wells Fargo. It is a common practice, whether it be Wells Fargo or your energy company or AT&T or what have you. I get messages from individuals on Facebook saying, wow, that happened to me. Look, it has JP Morgan in the email chain. And then ultimately you click on the email, the actual email sender, not anything inside the email, but the email sender address, and it's an entirely different address. This needs to be stopped. The FTC needs to jump into this, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So let's talk about how spoofing works. One way is caller ID spoofing. Scammers manipulate the caller ID to display a familiar or trusted number, such as a bank or government agency. When the victim answers the call, the scammer pretends to be a representative and requests personal information under the guise of verifying accounts or resolving issues. I recently, on my LinkedIn, an individual, very smart individual, said this happened to me from Bank of America. Bank of America called him, was very, very, it seemed like it was very, very legitimate. He said something seemed out of whack with the call, but ultimately, yeah, they started draining his accounts. Fortunately, they gave him his money back. The bank did. But you got to start asking yourself this. At what point will the bank say, you know what? It's costing us more money to basically reimburse people versus putting in the technology to where we won't allow this to happen. It's got to be a cost benefit analysis there where it's got to be put in place. The second part of how spoofing works is email spoofing. Fraudsters send emails that appear to be legitimate sources. These emails are often contain fake links to fake websites or attachments that can steal information or infect your devices with malware. Never click on anything in an email. I'm sorry, I'm telling you that, but just don't do it. In today's age, don't ever click on it. What I would do is if something comes from like a bank, I would go directly to the bank through an outside website. Do your particular website. Don't just click on a link inside the email. No. Another one is text message spoofing. Similar to email spoofing, scammers send text messages that look like they are from reputable companies. These messages may include links to phishing websites or prompt the recipient to call a fake customer service number. And of course, website spoofing. Scammers create websites that look identical to those to legitimate businesses. These fake sites are designed to capture login credentials, credit card numbers, and other sensitive information when users enter their details. Website spoofing is going to be very, very difficult because it looks just like the actual website, but it's important to understand that these exist. So why is spoofing effective? Well, it's obvious, right? It's the trust factor. People tend to trust communication that appears to come from known and reputable sources. The urgency around the scammers when they call you, they create this panic, this sense of urgency, making victims feel more likely to act without thinking critically, and they're becoming more sophisticated. There's advanced spoofing techniques, like I said, the websites can make fraudulent communication look very convincing, even to the tech savvy. I know some very smart people that this has happened to. So we just talked about understanding spoofing scams, right? They're out there. Now let's talk about signs of spoofing scams, right? The signs that you may be getting scammed or being spoofed. One is unsolicited contact, unexpected calls or messages asking for your personal information. That is a definite sign that doesn't make sense. For example, you may get a call or a text message from I get the USPS one all the time. You have a package. Well, I wasn't expecting a package, right? I'm not expecting a package, and I'm not going to click on that link. If I go to that link, and by the way, if you do go to that link, you basically don't go through the link. You actually go directly back to a USPS website, and you put in your information. Say, hey, do I have a package? No, you don't. Exactly. I helped my wife with this as well. So you don't have a UPS package. You don't have a USPS package. You don't have any packages coming right now because you didn't order anything. So why would you have a package coming? So yes, unsolicited contact is key. Two, like I mentioned before, urgency. Scammers often create a sense of urgency and panic. And the number one way is going to be, oh, like I showed you the video previously about the girl getting scammed through her Zelle account, even though she didn't have a Zelle account. They say, oh, your account's been compromised. We need to get this information so we can make sure that we can stop this hack. And then ultimately, they just end up taking all your money. So the sense of urgency is one of those things that I would definitely consider as, hey, man, you're moving a little bit too fast. Settle down and let's try to get this handled the proper way. I'm going to give you guys a couple different ways that I handle these things at the end of this thing, at the end of the podcast. But I think that are foolproof. But yeah. Next, request for personal information. When they're asking for your account details, passwords, or social security numbers, that's a red flag. Especially when they call you and they say, hey, I'll need to verify some account details. They may know, like the guy I mentioned previously in LinkedIn, they knew my account details, they knew information about me. Yeah, because how do they know that? Well, because there's been data leaks. There's been data leaks. If there's been a data leak from AT&T, data leak from your bank, they're going to have that information. They're going to have that information, but what they don't have is your passwords. So make sure you don't give them that information, because they're going to try to get into your accounts and drain your accounts. So again, request for personal data, because there's possibly been a data leak, especially with the AT&T data leak recently and all of that. They have that information. That's why they're calling from those numbers. Next, generic greetings, lack of personalization and communication, and of course, language barriers. You can see poor grammar and spelling in scam emails. That is an absolute key thing to look at. Make sure that if there's any incorrect grammar or spellings, make sure that you understand that, hey, that could be a scam email, and do not click on it. So now let's get to the point on how can we protect ourselves from these scams. So the first thing is verifying the source. Always independently verify the contact using official channels. Kevin, how do you do that? Well, how I do it, I basically go in and let's just say my bank calls me and says, hey, we have some fraudulent activity on your account. Oh, okay. Well, then what I would do is say, give me the case ID on this particular case. Since you're calling me, you've already have had to create a case ID number for that case. Give me the case ID. I will call back a number that I'm familiar with from my bank, and then I will give them the case ID to have them pull up the case, and then we can move from there. I'm not just going to go in through this whole process with someone just calling me off channel. Not going to happen. So make sure they give you a case ID. If they say, oh, no case has been created, well, then why are you calling me? Their case has to have been created if they're calling you. There's an identification number that they're using to verify the case in the system. They have created the case. If they say there's no case that has been created, then hang up on them and then call your reputable bank number back again, using your independent channel, and then verifying it that way. 2, don't share your personal information. Never give out personal details over unsolicited calls, no matter how urgent they make it feel. If you feel uncomfortable, I'll tell you this: hang up and dial your reputable source. Hang up and go to a reputable website. Don't ever just give it to me, especially if you start feeling uncomfortable. 3, use two-factor authentication. It adds an extra layer of security. Use two-factor authentication. Absolutely. 4, check carefully the ID, the caller ID. Be wary of calls from unknown or suspicious numbers. Even if they're spoofing the number, you may be able to go in and back channel that number. And I know this is a little bit tech savvy. Back channel that number to see exactly where it's coming from. Oftentimes they're spoofing those numbers. It's not necessarily coming from that number. It's just a number that they're using that comes up on your phone as a Wells Fargo or a Bank of America, what have you. And then last, things like this: educate yourself and others. Stay informed about the latest scam techniques and share information with your friends and family. I will attach my blog about spoofing to this podcast, so you have access to it, so you have ways to combat the issues that we're facing. So here are some steps to take if you suspect you've been in a scam. First of all, I would say do not engage, hang up or delete the message, right? But you would also need to report the scam. Contact the company being spoofed to report the incident. It's important they know these things. Not saying they're going to do anything about it, but it's important they know these things. Next, monitor your account activity. Keep an eye on your bank and your credit cards accounts and the statements for any suspicious activity. You may feel like I am a bit of a stickler with this, but yes, I monitor my accounts to the point where every morning I wake up and I make sure that my accounts, I recognize the transactions that went through. I know what I'm buying. I know who's buying what at all times because I also want to monitor my accounts. I think everybody should do that. Of course, contact the authorities. You can file a report with the local law enforcement or Federal Trade Commission. I think it's imperative that we get with our elected officials to let them know that this is happening not only to our older individuals, the boomers in society, but the younger individuals as well. People are trying to steal their money consistently, and it's often coming from offshore sources. So thank you guys. I hope this has been a valuable use of your time. I am trying to literally I care so much because I get so tired of this stuff. I get so tired of this stuff. People trying to attack you and take your money because of whatever reason, whether it be pig butchering through the cryptocurrency space, whether it be people trying to just take to do anything to you, that's something that you work so hard to achieve. So to recap, today we talked about spoofing. We talked about how they spoof, whether it be through your emails, whether it be through even Facebook and the social media channels, or whether it be through your phone, your caller ID. Spoofing is very, very key right now. It's very, very sophisticated, and sometimes it's often difficult to know the difference. So that's one key point. Two, we talked about how to signs of spoofing scams, whether it be unsolicited contact, urgency, request for personal information. Make sure that you're protecting yourself if these things were to come into your existence, so you don't necessarily have to be scammed by these individuals. Now, how to protect yourself: verifying the source, don't share your personal details, and using two-factor authentication is very key. And this in steps to suspect steps if you suspect a scam is actually taking place: do not engage, report the scam, monitor your accounts, and contact the authorities. Those are all some valuable pieces of information. Here's my final advice: stay vigilant, stay proactive, and if someone calls you, do not engage. If you suspect that something's fishy during a call, hang up. Your inner, I guess your inner you tells you exactly what's going on. And when you start feeling like a little bit uneasy about something, you're often right. So here's my call to action: share your experiences, ask questions, engage others, help the others. If you've been a victim of this, put this out on social media. Let people know what's going on. It's imperative that we all help engage one another. Thank you guys for listening to the 980s podcast. Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to go get my book, Get My Beat to CFP, live on Apple and Amazon. You have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email us at info@9icapitalgroup.com. Send us your question. You go to the website at www.9icapitalgroup.com. Schedule an appointment. As you know, we're here to do what? Educate, empower, and engage. And today we talked about spoofing, how you can identify spoofing and how you cannot be a victim, and steps you need to take if you suspect scam. Thank you guys for listening. Stay humble, stay safe, my friends. I'll see you again soon.